RCI set up to investigate tabung haji issues. Pharma niaga to deliver 12.4 million doses of Sinovac vaccine by next week. Hello and good evening. I'm Julai. Welcome to News at 10. A Royal Commission of Inquiry (RCI) will be set up to investigate issues arising connected to Lembaga Tabung Haji (LTH). Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said the matter was agreed at the Cabinet meeting today following issues arising from audits carried out by consultants such as PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, Ernst & Young, E&Y and Roland Berger between 2014 and 2020. In a statement, the Deputy Prime Minister said setting up of the RCI is necessary so that further investigations can be made and appropriate recommendations can be submitted to the government to restore the image and confidence of the people in LTH. The RCI is also to ensure that a transparent and trustworthy internal investigation can be carried out to ensure that LTH has carried out its mandate professionally in managing the deposits of Muslims. He said among the terms agreed by the Cabinet was that the scope of the RCI would focus on the consultants' findings on issues arising from LTH from 2014 to 2020, excluding the restructuring and rehabilitation plan currently being implemented. The RCI would also determine whether there was a cover-up of information on the issues raised and misleading statements, besides also submitting a review report and recommendations on follow-up actions to the government if necessary within 3 months. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said details on the establishment of RCI regarding terms and references as well as its membership will be announced in the near future, adding that the Prime Minister's department will identify a list of members from experts in Sharia law, Islamic banking and investment. The Royal Malaysia Police PDRM is investigating allegations of additional COVID-19 vaccination slots compared to the vaccine doses allocated at the vaccination centre PPV. Bukit Aman Commercial CID Director Datuk Muhammad Kamarudin Maddin confirmed the matter, and a report on the issue had been lodged by a vaccination centre PPV personnel in the federal capital. Datuk Muhammad Kamarudin said based on the police report received, the complainant alleged there were more vaccine recipients listed in My Sejahtera application compared to the total vaccine allocated to the PPV concern. He said the investigations is still at the initial stage and police would be taking statements from several witnesses involved. He also advised the people to give their full cooperation and support to the government to ensure the National COVID-19 Immunisation Programme PICK is realised. He said police would not compromise on any efforts to sabotage the program being implemented, whether for individual interest or otherwise, as firm actions would be taken against them. Pharma Niaga Life Science Sendirian Berhad PLS, a subsidiary company of Pharma Niaga Berhad, Pharma Niaga, is expected to deliver 12.4 million doses of the Sinovac COVID-19 vaccine to the government by next week instead of November under the original agreement. Pharma Niaga Managing Director Datuk Zulkarnain Mat Yusof said the supply was being hastened by 4 months following the surge in cases since April, while PLS was operating 24 hours each day in order to achieve the target. Dato' Zulkarnain said up to now, PLS had delivered 11.5 million doses or 93% of the Sinovac vaccine, comprising 3.6 million doses through fill and finish manufacturing and 7.9 million doses of the finished product that was imported.
Supposed to be ended by November, but because of the spike of COVID-19, then we expedite it by combine fill and finish and also the finished good. So the finished good also we supply to the government. The fill and finish also we supply to the government. So the total 12 million combined of these two elements. So that's why we can expedite in terms of delivery to the government.
Speaking at a virtual media conference today on the latest developments pertaining to the Sinovac vaccine distribution, he said Pharmaniaga was prepared to provide additional supply of the vaccine as requested by Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, and the company would offer an additional supply of 2 million doses to the government. Datuk Zulkarnain also announced that Pharmaniaga was also prepared to supply the vaccine to the state governments and private sector after completing its supply to the federal government. The Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation (MOSI) is considering to expedite vaccination process to students sitting for SPM and STPM examinations. Its Deputy Minister Dato' Ahmad Amzah Hashim said, however, the exact date is yet to be determined.
SPM dan STPM akan disegerakan pemberian vaksin. Termasuk kita telah pun mengeluarkan garis panduan tentang untuk mereka yang berumur 18 tahun. Kalau ikut, walaupun dia dikira dari segi tarikh dalam IC, tarikh lahir itu belum cukup, tapi dari segi tahunnya cukup 18 tahun, mereka boleh menerima suntikan.
The Deputy Minister added the vaccination exercise will also subject to parents' consent. He said this after visiting Vaccination Centre PPV at Dewan 2020 in Kanga, Perlis. Kelantan Health Department JKNK has mobilised 532 health personnel to states that are experiencing surge of new infections. JKNK Director Datuk Dr. Zaini Hussein said this group was deployed in stages since 7th July to Selangor, Kuala Lumpur, Kedah, Johor, Sabah, Labuan and Sarawak.
Alhamdulillah, secara ialah kita bantuan-bantuan kita beri ini adalah dasar kita membantu rakan-rakan kita. Jadi kita terpaksa adjust lah staf-staf kita yang ada untuk kita memaksimalkan mereka yang bertugas di sini.
Explaining further, Dato' Dr. Zaini said the state's operations will not be affected by their absence as the department has sufficient remaining staff. Met after visiting COVID-19 mobile vaccination program in Masjid Kabuong Kusial Baru in Tanah Merah, Dato' Dr. Zaini said Kelantan has recorded a downward trend in the number of new cases over the last few weeks. However, he said this does not mean that the situation was out of danger and urged those from other states to postpone their return to Kelantan at the moment. The Health Ministry reported 11,618 new COVID-19 cases today, yet another highest daily record in Malaysia since the pandemic hit the country. According to a statement by Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah, 26 of the cases above were imported cases, while the remaining were local infections. Selangor remains the state with the highest new number of infections with a staggering 5,051 cases reported, followed by Kuala Lumpur 1,749 cases and Negeri Sembilan 1,537 cases. Meanwhile, 6,377 recoveries were recorded, bringing the total recovery tally to 759,705, equivalent to an 87.57% recovery rate. Following this development, there are currently 101,359 active cases being monitored by MOH. This includes 878 cases treated in intensive care units ICU, with 432 of them requiring respiratory aid. MOH also reported 118 new COVID-19 related deaths in the past 24 hours. Meanwhile, data provided by Centre for Systems, Science and Engineering (CSSE) at Johns Hopkins University and some of the countries indicate a continuous surge in new cases, especially in Indonesia and Thailand, believed to be due to the Delta variant. With a daily record number of new cases, the situation in Indonesia is worrisome. Indonesia today recorded more than 54,000 new cases, with the Jakarta Metropolis putting up roadblocks and enhancing surveillance on all roads leading to the city. Only those with permission can leave or enter the city. Meanwhile, in Thailand is studying further its decision to mix and match China's Sinovac with AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine to boost protection against the virus after an international expert voiced concerns over the idea. The kingdom has also approved sale of COVID-19 antigen test kits for public, enabling its people to test right at their home and mitigate the risk of COVID-19 outbreak. In Sydney, 5 million residents will be in virus lockdown for at least another 2 weeks. Australia's largest city is already in its third week of a partial lockdown and struggling to bring a fast-spreading outbreak of the coronavirus Delta variant under control. Most Sydney residents are allowed to leave home for exercise, essential shopping, work or health reasons, but schools are closed and people are encouraged to remain at home. Coming up next, Felda refutes taking over settlers' land. All cabinet ministers today expressed unanimous support for the leadership of Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin as the Prime Minister of Malaysia. They said in a statement that they made this decision at the weekly meeting of the cabinet today. In a short statement, the cabinet ministers said that every decision by the government is made collectively after taking into account the views of all parties. The statement said the government's priority at this point is to make the National Recovery Plan a success for the welfare of the people and the prosperity of the country, as well as bringing the country out of the COVID-19 pandemic. The civil service sectors will remain committed and responsive to the current needs of the country during these trying times in struggling to contain the COVID-19 pandemic. All efforts implemented are made based on the latest information, informing and executing operations as decided by the government. Chief Secretary to the government Tan Sri Muhammad Zuki Ali, through a statement, said that close collaborations and mutual understanding between government and private agencies are the main ingredients in assuring successful initiatives and programs announced by the government. Only with the joint efforts and support from all sides may the country overcome the pandemic through the currently ongoing National Recovery Plan. Meanwhile, 8 stimulus packages worth over 500 billion ringgit has been announced to help the rakyat that were impacted throughout the duration of the pandemic. In addition, the National COVID-19 Immunization Program is currently being rolled out nationwide. The Federal Land Development Authority, FLDA, has refuted the allegation that they would take over the settlers' farming land once they sign the conditional loan right-of agreement. FLDA General Manager Dato' Amiruddin Abdul Sattar said there were some misunderstandings about the matter and the agreement was actually fair to both parties as it would see 80% of the settlers' bad debts can be written off.
Hasrat Felda daripada sejak penumpahan memang mengurus ladang seperti mana-mana syarikat ladang besar mengurus ladang. Itu yang kita nak tekankan. Pengurusan tu, bukan ladang tu sangat, pengurusan tu. Cabaran yang kita tempuhi sekarang di dalam industri, sektor industri berkenaan dengan buruh, berkenaan dengan RSPO, berkenaan dengan environment, ini memerlukan pengurusan ladang secara besar.
So far, Dato' Amiruddin said at least 20% of the settlers had agreed to sign the agreement, which will see them having to fork out only 200 ringgit to 300 ringgit a month to repay their debts compared to 800 ringgit to 1,000 ringgit previously. On 7th July, Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin announced that the government had agreed to write off part of the FLDA settlers' loans totaling 8.3 billion ringgit as an initiative to revive the 65-years-old organisation. In a statement yesterday, FLDA said the write-off is based on the condition that the settlers must send their harvests or hand over the plantation management to FLDA. It said the settlers will still be allowed to run their farms provided they send their full harvest to FLDA and that they are also required to pay the monthly loans installment in full every month and implement farm management according to the methods, standards, good agriculture practices and standard operating procedures set by FLDA. Pulau Pinang Police detained 6 individuals and busted 2 drug trafficking syndicates in raids around the state between 6 and 12 July. The police also seized various types of drugs worth 3.5 million ringgit. State Police Chief Datuk Muhammad Shuhaili Muhammad Zain said in a special operation conducted on Monday, police crippled a drug distribution ring after raiding 3 houses in Perai, Simpang Empat and Seberang Jaya. During the raid in Perai, police arrested a couple and a man aged between 25 to 42 years old in a single-story terrace before seizing 27 packages of shabu weighing 29.1 kilograms along with 760,000 ringgit of cash and jewelries worth 55,000 ringgit. In Simpang Empat, a 33-year-old individual was arrested in his residence. Police also confiscated 4.3 kilograms of heroin base, 8.6 kilograms of heroin, and 52.1 kilograms of caffeine along with a firearm and 13 bullets. All the 4 suspects have previous records related to crime and drugs, and they have been remanded for 7 days to assist in the investigation under Section 39B of the Dangerous Drugs Act. Meanwhile, on 6th July, police managed to cripple another drug syndicate in Sungai Kuala Muda after 2 fishermen boats collided with each other. Police seized 60 kilos of shabu worth around 2.1 million ringgit found in one of the boat. Datuk Muhammad Shuhaili said the 2 men have been remanded for investigation under Section 39 subsection B of the Dangerous Drugs Act, adding that police are still tracking other syndicate members. 70 football bookies were arrested under the month-long Ops Soga 8th crackdown until 12 July in Johor over betting on the Euro 2020 matches involving total wagers amounting to about R1 million. Johor Police Chief Dato' Ayub Khan Maidin Peaches said the suspects were aged 17 to 65 and that police also confiscated various items including mobile phones and laptops besides cash amounting to 42,535 ringgit. Dato' Ayub Khan added that all the bookies arrested were from different gambling syndicates and operated in premises and residences around the state, especially in the Johor Bahru district. All those detained were remanded between 2 and 4 days to assist in investigations. He said the investigations were conducted under Section 6, Subsection 3, Section 6, Subsection 1 and Section 4, Subsection 1, Subsection D of the Betting Act 1953. Betting on football matches is illegal in Malaysia. Alright, so that is it from us this evening. In our top story, RCI set up to investigate tabung haji issues. Join us for updates at noon at 12:30 tomorrow. I'm Shuhaida Arifin. Thank you for watching.